Let us therefore resolve to help each other in this process as we journey together. It is likely that we will find our communities richer for acknowledging and respecting this important sector of society, the insightful aging and aged. I wish you and yours a happy and peaceful 2012.
To all of you who are watching this program at the beginning of another new year. The end of one year and the beginning of another year is usually a good time to look back at what has been and to look forward to what could be. Looking back can be a challenge for most of us. But if we avoid looking back, then we fail to learn from our past experiences. And remember, these include our achievements just as much as our disappointments. Experience is the best teacher, the proverb tells us. And so I would encourage you to try and recall at least some of the major events that touched your life over the last 12 months, for better or for worse. Things that happened to yourself personally, things in your family, in your local community. We must also look at the world around us as the news unfolds from day to day. These things too can have an impact on our own personal lives as much as on our own society. We live in a world today which is much more interdependent than it was even one generation ago. The world, as we say, has become a global village. A businessman once told me, if the United States gets a cold, then the rest of the world will get pneumonia. Now, he wasn't talking about the sickness of pneumonia, he was talking about the financial crisis. The prophet Joel, inspired by God, spoke these words, I will pour out my spirit on all mankind. Yes, he said, on all mankind. Your old men shall dream dreams, and your young men shall see visions. You know, it is important that we take time to dream. I'm not talking about now dreams in our sleep, but daydreaming in a good sense. For example, have I ever thought how I might be able to help to make the world a better place to live in? You know, if we all say, but this, I'm not called for this, I'm not made for this. If everybody said that, then nothing would happen. 40 years ago, a youth group in Italy founded a lay association called the Movement for a Better World. That happened because a few people committed themselves to this ideal because they believed that it was possible that they could do something. They can't do it all, but that they could do something to help the world become a better place. The alternative is to succumb to a kind of fatalism, and that can become a serious virus in any society. It destroys the dignity of the human person, and especially for young people. So we need to look at leaders or visionaries who have shown us that what seems to be impossible is actually possible. I have a dream. We are all familiar with those words of Martin Luther King, and how he believed that he could inspire his people with a ray of light and hope when the great struggle for freedom was going on in the 60s. Tourists were visiting a large hostel run by the Missionaries of Charity in Calcutta for terminally ill and abandoned people. These tourists were horrified by the huge number of sick and dying that Blessed Mother Teresa was trying to care for. They asked her, "But how can you cope with such numbers in such a pitiful condition?" And her answer, "I give each one of them the time and the care that they need before I move on to the next. At the end of the day, I have to leave the rest in the hands of God." Here is a powerful example of a woman who committed herself 100% to what was possible but very demanding, and was then ready to accept the impossible, which is equally difficult, because we all have our human limitations. How many of us would have opted out of such a work from the very beginning on the grounds this is simply beyond our reach? It could never be a success story. There are thousands of people in our world today doing such work, but their names rarely or never make the headlines. I had the privilege to share in a very small way in the community of Sant'Egidio in Rome, the work they were doing as a lay association that cares for the local destitute people of Rome as well as immigrants from all over the world. These people have no home to live in, they have no immigration papers, and they have no work. The community was founded almost 50 years ago by a history professor who taught in one of the large universities of Rome. His vision or his dream was born after he read the document on the laity from the Second Vatican Council. And now there are thousands and thousands of lay people belonging to this community doing that kind of work for the poor. Your old people will dream dreams, and your young people shall see visions. A journalist who attended the World Youth Day in Madrid last August wrote about his impressions of the day on which Pope Benedict arrived in Madrid and then addressed the youth that same evening. There were more than 2 million of them coming from the 4 corners of the world, gathered at an airport outside Madrid. 30 young Gambians were part of this event. The temperature on that Sunday evening when the Pope began to speak was almost 40 degrees centigrade. But as time went on, a severe thunderstorm broke out. Heavy rain began to fall. Everybody was saturated. Eventually, the Pope was unable to continue his homily, and for a short time it seemed as if the event could not continue. But the Pope decided to add another word or two to what he was saying, and he told the young people that they would encounter trials in their lives much worse than this rain, and that at all times they should stand firm in their faith. When I heard that, I suspected the